The governor has proposed several new funding initiatives and programs for your department as part of the Pennsylvania Farm Bill proposal. And however, looking at this, and despite the number of new initiatives, I for one, and I think others would be too, were frustrated that the governor's budget again eliminates, at least 6 separate line items totaling nearly $4 million that have always been continued to be supported by the General Assembly. And just one background, I want to go through several of them, is agriculture research was eliminated, and that's, about $2.2 million. And then I'll be upfront, your own hearing material states that research projects are very critical for providing industry and consumers with insight and solutions. So that's one. The second one, and key to Pennsylvania, is the hardwoods research and promotion, and eliminated about $425,000. And despite the importance, I don't know whether people know this in the Commonwealth, just how important the hardwood industry is, that we actually export to nearly approaching $500 million a year in hardwoods. And so that line item was eliminated. And then food marketing and research is another one that was eliminated. And in your own hearing material, you even stated that it's critical for the department's ability to provide qualified expertise and assistance, and I would agree with that, and particularly to food processors and producers. And just wanted to maybe have you comment on that, because if you, I think you'd openly admit, and you had in your testimony, written testimony, that if we eliminated these items, it's critical. Why would the governor eliminate them in this preliminary budget?
Yeah, Representative, thank you. Yeah, you're correct. I mean, each of those lines have been, legislative add-on, and we've gone back and forth over the years with, the priorities, through different administrations, and each time, we put things in, we take them out, and we do that. But I guess I would just say that overall, in the department's budget, a 7.5% increase, $163 million. Some of the Farm Bill components actually would still address, issues of research, still address issues of promotion and hardwoods, just not in the line items. But as we work through this process, we're early in it. Look forward to those conversations with the legislature about the priorities.
Will the dollar amounts that are in some of these new programs cover what we've already funded? Do you know that for certain, or do you think we're going to be eliminating some of these line items? I mean, what's your thought process on that?
Right. So it is not going to be a one-for-one substitution, right? So as an example in the hardwoods, I mean, just to point out that while the hardwood line is zeroed out, I mean, we did make a decision several years ago to move the staff off of the Hardwood Development Council line onto the GGO to the tune of about $206 million or $206,000. In addition to that, I think to the point about the new money versus the zeroed out lines, our expectation is that we would include the hardwoods in the specialty crop block grant. Could be considered there. So it's not going to be a one-to-one.
How about the research line, though?
Research line, again, it's not there'll be research components in the Farm Bill, but there's not going to be a one-to-one substitution there.
Well, like I said, I mean, the increase, as you said, I mean, compared to other years, was positive. But then when you look at some of these programs, I mean, we're going to have to delve into this a little bit more deeper, just to be sure that, ag's #1 industry in the state, and we got to deal with that. Switching topics, and I know that I'm going to have probably another colleague or two or mine are going to get into this. Being from Lancaster County, I want to talk to you a little bit about the dairy industry.
Yes.
And what are we doing? I mean, I hate to say this, but there's this perception out there that what we're doing is trying to help farmers get out of the business rather than try to. And I know it's market driven, but what are we doing to try to incentivize them or try to make sure that they can stay in business? I mean, what are we doing as a Department of Agriculture?
Yeah. No. Again, thank you for the question, and certainly dairy has been probably every third conversation that we've had in the last year. Every place we go, there are dairy issues. I want to dispel that myth that somehow we're directing people out of the business. I mean, every one of these are private enterprises that folks have to make decisions about what they do and to what extent they can their own profit margins and how much equity someone loses or prepared to risk in that. But in terms of what have we done? We shared last year the dairy study that we did several years ago to bring in the economists to look at Pennsylvania dairy and ask two questions. One, are we competitive relative to our competitors? And the answer was yes. But the second question was, then what do we have to do to change? And there's a set of recommendations. The recommendations out of the dairy study led to the dairy development plan and, of course, in this year's budget, the dairy investment program, which appreciate the support of the General Assembly on the $5 million. In addition to that, advocating on the dairy policy at the federal level, new leadership at the Pennsylvania Milk Marketing Board, Choose PA Dairy campaign. I always like to ask the question of everyone in a room: Are you drinking more fluid milk today than you did 5 years ago? Is a question all of us have to ask, right? It's about consumption. This is about a food product that folks have to consume. For Pennsylvania, that fluid milk becomes a really important part of our margin, but certainly the future that we see it. So a lot is being done in the dairy, but we're really hopeful that through the Farm Bill, there's a second $5 million installment for the dairy investment program. We do need the CFA to approve, the first round of grants. Hopefully they'll meet in March to put that first wave out. But it's a collective effort of both, what we're doing in the department, but also the industry efforts. And goal is to stabilize dairy. It's in a better place today than it was the start of 2018, but a lot of work to do yet.
No, well, I agree with you. We need to try to figure out what we can do to help that industry. And we're here as a resource again. And like I said, I know there's likely going to be follow-ups here today on that subject. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.